Hey everyone, it's James. Wanted to say hi to everybody and try to think about a different piece of content with these videos. That they're not philosophy related, just more life, what I'm up to right now, what I'm doing, what I'm building. Um, and basically, what is it that I do for a living, which right now has to do with I run a business that provides website services for what I call values based organizations such as nonprofits, churches, people that are usually underserved by the modern tech community. And that opens up opportunities for people like me that know how to do the job and how to do the work, um, and are also comfortable in that space. I'm able to connect those pieces of my life together. And yeah, so I have a company slash ministry called Media Day, and we're located right here in Philadelphia. Um, how long has it been? It's been about 3 years. I have to go back and check to when it began, first of all. But yeah, about 3 years. Most of that has been on ramping and learning the business process itself, which was very, very difficult. Um, and not only the business, but the product, having to design websites in a way that was compelling and highly developed, in accordance with all the modern standards, um, is its own challenge. And but also, I wanted to. This is something that merges with the theme that I've been covering so far on this channel, um, which that had to do with philosophy, right? It had to do with abstract notions of truth and things like that. And you'll hear more about that, much, much more in the future. But having that humanities, liberal arts side of myself, um, and having this computer side of myself, I wanted to bring them together. So this company brings those things together. And on the one hand, we design websites in a highly developed fashion, but we also produce and design them, the layout, the style of it, using that liberal arts um, half of me. And so what I mean by that is we go to the historical, um, really the historical traditional Renaissance era, Renaissance style um, way of design. Uh, what I like to say often is the question we ask ourselves is how would Michelangelo design a website? That's a pretty good question and a pretty rare question. And so, if that's our question, going back to the classical, really, really lost and forgotten tools of typography and layout and design and color theory, what kinds of fonts we use, how the letters are shaped, how the letters are spaced, um, how the content is organized, right? If it's a website with a lot of content, how do you group and clump pieces of content together? Um, so that's the humanities half of me coming out, and then I marry that to the computer science half of me, and so WordPress and PHP and JavaScript, jQuery, HTML, CSS, SAS preprocessors. Um, Now I'm looking a little bit more into Angular, I'm looking more into React, although not too excited about uh, the JavaScript platforms as they currently are. Um, I don't think they're going to replace. I don't want to get too much into the nerdy technical discussion of technologies in the marketplace, but I don't think the JavaScript stuff is going to replace like traditional PHP WordPress stuff anytime soon. So having having dipped my toe in that water, I'm pulling back out and I'm saying that's not something that's responsible for anything but the biggest company in the world to sort of toy with. So I'm putting that aside. Anyway, enough of the inside, shop talk. But yeah, so we're a little company, in Philadelphia, doing something that is church related, something that is ministry related, something that is nonprofit related, something that is values based, something that is immune from the ups and the downs of the marketplace. Um, something that is I don't want to sound too much too highfalutin about it, but something that is a little bit more eternal. And that's hard to do with websites, which are very ephemeral. That's why we don't think too much about them and how to lay them out. But I do think like there's something interesting in designing them with that eternality in mind, with the way the Renaissance designer or an artist would have laid out his painting 500 years ago or whatever. And he had his mindset on the eternal as well, which is an interesting merger with the truth point I mentioned. There's a lot of things out here that I'm mentioning, and the way they're connected in my mind over here, it's crazy. I don't even understand all of it myself. Sorry, people. But I guess these videos are going to help me understand what it is that I'm even trying to do here, have been trying, and will be trying to do for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Um, so yeah, anyway, so that's the design, that's the business, and it's very tough. It's very tough, I have to say. Building a business is very difficult. Um, I really was training myself to be an academic, really coming up through college and things like that, and did not plan to be in anywhere near the business space. Um, in fact, up until even even 5 years ago, I had no idea. So it's been a huge learning challenge. I mean, the humanities parts of this are easy for me. The stuff that I mentioned, the Renaissance stuff, the 500 years ago stuff, that might sound arcane to you. That's easy for me. The business things like budgeting, profit and loss, um, marketing yourself, defining your product, defining your market, and the most hard of all, which is pivoting, the business pivot in the modern startup market sort of world. The pivot is the most important concept in business in the startup world, and and we are a very cool little startup here in Philadelphia. So I'm in that ecosystem, and having learned everything else, I've learned the whole pivot concept in business, and so that's been the most successful way for me to grow, but also the most challenging. And just in general, a pivot in business is the most difficult thing you can do. Um, and the way that works is the more pivots you can do as a business, the more you will be successful. Um, and it's kind of like a little bit like success is defined as who gets to fail more. The person that can fail more will succeed. And so pivot is a little bit like that. The person or the company that can pivot the most in the best way and the most often is going to succeed. And so for me, that likes to sit on an idea, a strategy, and just go with it for 15, 20 years. To pivot on the micro scale is very difficult because I didn't realize there's a macro and a micro. You can have a macro plan that is 20 years long, which is what I do have. Um, and then you should separate that from the micro. And on the micro scale, having a tenacity is a bad idea. On the micro scale, you want to be able to pivot and change gears very quickly. And that's a skill I've had to learn. Um, and anyway, that's I've had to pivot at least 6 or 7 times in the last 3 years. And that's been very difficult, but I think it's working out. Um, yeah, this office you've been seeing, this is the office that we work out of. This is a co-working space. Um, it's pretty fantastic. And I have my growing staff, my wonderful little team of like-minded individuals that are building the dream and building the company with me now. Whereas in the beginning, of course, it was just me, and just trying to scrap it all together is itself an impossible task. But yeah, as I'm ruminating on the eternal and all that nerdy stuff, I'm also building something very practical, very immediate, and very concrete, with lots of nitty gritty financial stuff and design and coding and technology and server stuff and all of that every day. So all of that is swirling up in here. Hopefully, God willing, as I keep making these videos, I will cover more of um, the day to day of the business. And maybe I'd like you to meet the people that are working with me. And as I'm hiring more, I'll try to bring them on and maybe have them sit down with me here and put them on. Um, but I'd like to capture more of the business, because as I go through it, and as it's clearly the most challenging thing right now that I could be doing, if it happens that I succeed at it, it would be good for it to be captured on how it happened, how exactly I did it, what are the steps, what are the constituent pieces of it, and because that's a pretty rare thing to be capturing a startup as it's starting up in my space. I don't know of anybody else doing this in terms of the video coverage of it. Um, and we'll see. We'll see how far I can take the coverage of it. I'll start to explain what the business is like in terms of you know who our clients are, how we're growing the business, um, maybe something more on the technologies that we involve and use, and the challenges and the pitfalls and the upside and everything in between. As life progresses, so will hopefully my capture of everything that's happening will progress. And stay tuned. Probably the next video I'll make is going to be back to something more abstract and something more um, just life related. But every now and then I'm going to start injecting more video about the business. And in case you're interested in the business world, hit me up. Let me know who you are. Let me know. Say hi to me, and let's talk. So that's going to be that for me. Thank you for watching. And if you're one of the two people that are watching this right now, hello. And if more likely you're one of the people that are watching this 20 years later, that blows my mind what that even means. It's 2017, so you're in 2037. This is now, June, whatever, 15th, May 15th of 2037. All right. Is that what's happening? Is that who you are watching this video right now? Saying hello to you too. Wondering who you are. Thank you for watching from the future. And thank you for those in the present. Thanks. Later.